You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketers, have you considered leveraging influencers to drive customer acquisition? With us today is Yuliya Gorenko, a strategic advisor over at Mischka. Mischka is a performance-first influencer marketing agency that has facilitated thousands of brand influencer partnerships. So excited to have you on, Yuliya. How are you?
Hey, Chris, good to be here.
So we're so excited to dive more into the topic of influencer marketing. But first, we want to know about your entrepreneurial journey. What were you doing before, and how has that kind of prepared you to what you're doing today?
Sure, I'd love to talk about that. The funny part about me, the fun fact, is that I never actually aspired to be an entrepreneur. I never actually planned or thought that I would take this route, but I guess life happens. So my journey is that I've been in the marketing communication space for over a decade. I started my career as a brand marketer. I worked for large corporations and led the PR digital marketing effort for a lot of brands. And then at some point of my career, I received several job offers simultaneously, which maybe sounds impossible in today's economy that we live in. But back then, I think the tech space where I used to work at that time, the tech software development space was so hot. Those companies were hiring so much. So I got several job offers at the same time. And it kind of hit me like, why do I need to pick one when I can work with multiple clients as an independent consultant? And this is how it all got started. And then I was helping those brands build their influencer programs. And at some point, I realized that I cannot do it on my own anymore. I actually need help. And it means I need to delegate some of the things now. And it all kind of happened like this very naturally, very organically, where I would never consider myself to be an entrepreneur. It's just something that happened to me. And now my agency, we started it about 4 years ago, and it's grown quite a bit since then. We work with a variety of clients. Mostly we work with consumer brands, with mobile apps, software, services, and products. So yeah, that's like our specialty. And we connect brands with influencers, content creators, and we help them drive customer acquisition, as you said, through influencer partnerships.
That's so exciting. And what a fascinating journey that you just kind of stumbled or fell into the marketing space. And then you were suddenly an entrepreneur, even though you didn't want to be. But look at you out here crushing it. Congratulations to you. Now, for those other marketers and business owners who want to leverage influencer marketing, what are things that they should be looking for, or what do you take your clients through in their process?
I would say that don't be intimidated to get started. I know that working with influencers might sound like, oh, I probably need a huge budget for that. Of course, if you want to scale your program, you would need budget, but you can start at a relatively lower scale and a smaller spend. Maybe at some point you won't even need to spend actual marketing dollars. Maybe you have a really cool product or service that you can offer to some smaller influencers for free. Let's say you just ship your product to them and kind of leave it up to them whether they want to create some content about it. It just comes down to finding the right people who would be a good fit for your brand, understanding who are those leading voices in your niche, and maybe using some keyword research to find the people who are already talking about the issues that your product helps to address. And as a small brand, you can reach out to them and be very candid, very humble, and be like, hey, we're a tiny brand, but we really love you and we just want to send you our product and hear back from you. Even if you don't post about it, just give us some feedback. How do you like it? And this way you toward this relationship. And sometimes when they genuinely like your product, it might turn into something bigger where they actually want to share it with their community. For brands who are more serious about building the influencer program into like a revenue driving channel, I would say, yeah, you definitely need to have budget to pay influencers for the work that they do, for the content that they create for your brand, especially as you start working with influencers who have larger reach. Those people get too many brand offers and they won't waste their time on like a free brand collaboration. They definitely want to monetize their time. They want to be paid. So be prepared. I would say to build a solid influencer program, if you really want to take this route, be prepared to spend at least $20,000, I would say a month. That's some of the clients that we work with. But again, I don't want to intimidate people listening out there. If you're a small business, there are still those small but impactful things that you can do on your own just by reaching out to influencers directly.
That is all fantastic advice, Yulia. I appreciate that. And I think it just goes to show that as long as you are willing to try something, take action, there's opportunity available for the smaller businesses or the smaller influencers and all the way up into the much larger ones, but it can still be impactful. Two things that you mentioned that I love to focus on is you spoke about the audience. Who is
Mhm.
interested in something like this, I think is so important. And then second was the relationship building. This is
Mhm.
marketing 101. And I think something that people don't really focus on too much is the relationship building and considering the audience. Who wants to hear about this, talk about it, build that sense of community, the real relationship? Why is that so important now to focus on the audience and the relationship? Can you expand more on that?
Yeah, I'd like to start with the relationship piece because sometimes, like people who work in the influencer marketing industry, we say that we're in the business of relationships. I mean, yeah, like if you think about it, influencer marketing can be considered as one of the components of your public relations strategy. So, definitely establishing good connections and relationships with people that you work with is crucial. I would say brands oftentimes, especially who are very much performance driven, those who pursue like ROI right here and right now. We invested X dollars in this influencer partnership, show me the return right away. Sometimes though this type of brands can be quite aggressive and pushy when it comes to influencer partnerships, and they might forget that you're actually working with a real human being and you want to like balance your business approach with how do I build trust here? How do I show to this influencer that we're actually a cool brand to work with? We're not just all about the numbers and perform. So as much as you want to like be focused on your business KPIs, it's very important to build those connections. And I'm gonna give you an example. Those connections can actually go a long way. When I work with larger brands, sometimes it might be very hard to like convince somebody like a CFO, like, why do we need to provide extra value to a certain influencer? Why do we need to accommodate to their requirements and budget expectations, etc.? They would be like, show me the return right now. But from my experience, I know that actually investing in those relationships pays off. Maybe not 100% of the times. Yes, there are people where you give, they won't be given back. It's in any area of life, right? And not only in business. But oftentimes, when you truly put the effort in showing to the influencer that you appreciate them, that you care about them, you're actually interested in establishing this relationship, it definitely pays off. As an example, I work with a company, a client that provides an online privacy service. And I'm not going to go into the details of the brand and the influencer because I have an NDA with the client. But to give you the generic idea of what happened was that this influencer, who is quite famous, has gone through a certain period of public backlash for something that he posted. He then sorted it all out. He apologized and he is still very much loved by his community. So things ended really well. But during this particular period of time, he was harassed online, like really bad. And we heard him talking about it and we immediately reached out to him and we said, you know what? We are on your side. We support you. We want to provide you and your whole team access to this privacy service to make sure that people who harass you online cannot easily target you and your employees. And we provided the service, the brand provided the service to the influencer for free, of course, which is quite a heavy investment to give access to a whole bunch of people for free. 6 months later, this influencer released a video that covered not only the cost, of those free subscriptions, but generated much more in revenue for this brand. And the influencer took a very thorough approach to this video to actually talk about the brand that he truly loves. So, yes, building those relationships is crucial. And it's an interesting balance of business objectives and human to human connection.
Yes, absolutely. And I love just everything that you focus on as far as relationship building. It can be so important for businesses. Oftentimes, we need to make short term sacrifices for a longer term gain. You mentioned people, sometimes clients want that immediate ROI, or the CEO in the boardroom says, "Where's the money? I need results right now." But these things do take time, and it shows as that story 6 months later how impactful that one video could be for that business. And this can happen over and over again. If you build those relationships and offer something for free, make a short term sacrifice, it can pay dividends in the long run. Now, for most of your clients, do you work more heavily on like a B2B sales, or is it B2C sales that you focus on?
We primarily work with consumer brands. We do have some experience working and like building influencer programs for B2B brands, but those work very much different from your typical B2C influencer program. I can go over this a little bit if you'd like to.
Yes, absolutely.
So basically, when it comes to B2C influencer partnerships, technically anybody out there can be the user of your product. Anybody can be your influencer, maybe even on the micro scale. You can be very creative when it comes to like what type of niches of influencers you can work with. Let's say, I don't know, you have a travel app. Your first most obvious thing to do would be to partner with some travel creators, but actually you can tap into so many other people out there, because at some point of our lives everybody travels, and like all of us can use a good travel app, so you can work with so many like diverse creators. On the other hand, when it comes to B2B partnerships, this is where you are actually looking to connect with experts in your particular industry. So let's say you are an ed tech provider, you're going to be probably looking to work with influencers in the educational community. Same with like, I don't know, financial services or maybe cybersecurity. You will be looking to connect with people who are trusted experts in your particular niche. And then, of course, your approach to building those partnerships, B2C influencer partnerships versus B2B, is also quite different. For instance, in B2C, a lot of times things happen very transactionally. So you as a brand reach out, you kind of lay the expectations on what kind of content you expect the influencer to create for you. They give you the price, you negotiate it a little bit, and you shake hands. And typically those influencers would be quite open to a brand partnership because that's their primary source of income, right? Like their social platform and those brand partnerships, that's how they make a living. At the same time, when you approach a B2B influencer, they probably have a job, maybe a business. They probably are a recognized public speaker, an author, et cetera, et cetera. So like they have all those roles and sources of income that when a brand reaches out to them, it's more like, I don't know, what do you want from me? So your approach here should be much different. Instead of just being like, oh, write a blog post for me and I will pay you that many dollars. Your approach should be, what value can you as a brand offer to this B2B influencer? What would they get out of partnering with you? Maybe you would invite them to speak at a certain event and sponsor their speaking engagement. And this way they can establish their thought leadership and at the same time, like get paid for doing that and endorse your brand. So the approach to B2B influencer partnership is much more complex, definitely takes more art and science. And also the ROI is not that straightforward, probably as it is with those B2C partnerships where the influencer advertised your product, you see people immediately rush to your website, you see the uplift in orders through the website, you see the uplift in traffic, maybe traffic to your social page. When it comes to B2B influencers, as we know, the sales cycle in the B2B world is much longer. So you probably require multiple touch points with the same prospective buyer before they even consider adopting your solution. So it's totally like two different worlds, B2C and B2B influencer marketing.
It is absolutely two different worlds, but I think it keeps us on our toes to try and stay on top of the trends and differences and how we properly take people through the sales cycle, the buyer's journey, and ultimately that exchange of value in the end is what happens for most transactions. Now, with the trends of influencer marketing, have you noticed any differences, I don't know, in the last, 3 to 5 years at all when it comes to influencer marketing?
Yeah, I think the industry keeps evolving. Back then, when I just got started about like 8 to 10 years ago, when I just started to experiment with influencer partnerships, a lot of brands did not fully recognize the value of partnering with influencers. It was more like an optional thing. Right now, a lot of brands prioritize this and allocate a very solid portion of their marketing budget to this particular marketing tactic. And like an influencer marketing department, or like at least one specialist on the team, is a non-negotiable for like most of the brands these days. Large brands have huge departments to manage all the influencers that they work with. So I think the influencer marketing industry definitely matured, and we see that more and more brands fully embrace this necessity of working with influencers and recognize the huge value that it drives.
That's so wonderful. I appreciate you sharing. Now, in the influencer marketing world, have you noticed either a trend with the type of content that an influencer may post, whether it's an unbiased review or it's specifically a promo or it's a quick mention in an episode or a podcast or a video? Do you find a certain type of content gets better traction than others?
Wow, that's a great question. When we think about like what type of content we should work on for our brand clients, we always look at the brand first. So let's say, as an agency, we have several clients who are mobile app developers. So the product that we are marketing through influencers is a mobile app. This actually helps us already to establish like what type of social platform we want to work with and what kind of content we want to create. We primarily work with mobile first social platforms like Instagram or TikTok for those mobile app clients because it's a much easier checkout flow for the viewer, for the user when they're already on their mobile device. More specifically, TikTok, for example, actually offers you an insight in what type of mobile device the audience uses. So each influencer can actually have visibility into like how many of my TikTok viewers are using an iPhone versus a Samsung device versus another mobile device. So we even can narrow down our targeting to the mobile device, not only like the device itself. So to answer your question, like what type of content performs better, it really comes down to the brand objectives. With some of our clients, we see actually massive results through podcast sponsorships. So we work with podcasters and have them endorse the brands during the ad breaks of their episodes. And we would typically equip each podcaster with a unique coupon code where then we can further track those coupon code redemptions and actually measure the impact and the value of those endorsements. So I honestly don't want to give you like a generic answer like, oh, you know what? Yeah, Instagram Reels are the best. Like, no, it comes down to the brand and the brand specifics and objectives.
That's so important. You have to consider the audience and where that audience hangs out and what message,
Yeah.
the goal, the objective. of that client is, all the different factors that go into it. As I was checking out your LinkedIn profile, I noticed
Mhm.
you were HubSpot certified. And I
Oh,
just
yeah.
wanted to ask about the tools that you use in your agency or something you may recommend to other marketers or business owners who want to go towards the direction of influencer marketing.
Yeah. I would say currently there are so many platforms for influencer management, influencer marketing automation. As an agency, we are approached all the time by providers and developers of these platforms. If you are an independent, like small brand, small business, it probably would not make sense for you at this point to invest in an influence marketing platform just because the price can be like starting from like 10,000 a year. And maybe if you want to just kind of get your feet wet and reach out to just a few influencers, you don't need to commit to an investment like that at that point. So honestly, just manual search on social media by like certain keywords and hashtags would be the best way for those kind of brands. If somebody is seriously considering building a full influencer program with like tens or hundreds influencers activated monthly and quarterly, then yeah, it definitely probably would make sense to invest in a platform. I don't want to recommend a specific one because a lot of them are actually very similar. It just comes down to the price. A good starting point would be to check out Influencer Marketing Hub. It's a website with a lot of resources for people who want to learn more about influencer marketing. There are like industry benchmark reports and blog articles. And also, there's a list of platforms that can help you with like influencer marketing discovery and like the campaign automation and all this type of things. And yeah, I think each brand can decide on their own based on the needs that they have, what platform works for them.
Absolutely. You always want to consider what tool is right for the job based on the price and the features and where you're at and where you're trying to take that eventually. Now, for you with your business and everything that you're doing, what is on the docket for 2024? Any goals or aspirations, things you're excited about or looking forward to, either life or business?
I think I am in this after COVID era where we were all locked down for like 2 years. And now I'm kind of catching up. Like, I actually caught myself that I am much more socially active than I used to be. And it's probably like I am compensating for the time that I spent alone working from home. So definitely something that is on my to-do list is get myself out there, attend more conventions, more events, meet people in person, which is so important. Yeah, I think that's very exciting. There is a book which I read a while ago. It's a very famous book. And for those who have not read it, I highly recommend it. It's called Never Eat Alone. It's a book by Keith Ferrazzi where he teaches people not how to network because networking is such a term which is overused and maybe is used by people who are just trying to get something from the people around them, but this book actually teaches you how to build connections and relationships, how to learn more about the people that you meet, and how to actually be a better person in a way and like provide value to the people that you meet on your way. So, the book that I currently kind of like follow and try to implement some of the tips in my life and my business.
Well, it's very exciting that you're starting to get out there more and just understand the value of the human connection because those years during COVID, that was an interesting time where we're just kind of like breaking out of our cocoons now, or butterflies just flying. And like finally, we're putting ourselves out there. I find myself connecting with more people and going to more networking events.
Mhm.
I think it's so important to just be a good person and then spread that knowledge and friendship with everyone as opposed to just the traditional networking. Because, like you said,
Mhm.
there's like a goal or an objective at the end. Now, for those who are interested in connecting with you or your business, where can they find you online?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me would be LinkedIn. My name is like relatively unique. So if you just type it in, you would probably see my profile.
Funny story, I recently made an attempt to start a TikTok as well. I don't think it's successful, but I'm on TikTok as well.
Hey, that's beautiful. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many followers or the audience members, as long as you have content being put out there, it's exciting. I myself was not on TikTok. I just opened one, but I haven't
Uh-huh.
posted a video. And I think they're going to ban it over here in the US.
Oh my
However,
God. Yeah, that's actually a very interesting place where we find ourselves in because for our brand clients, we actually work with a lot of TikTokers, and most of our clients are US based and they target the US market. So we are all in the influencer marketing industry. We're all observing what's going to happen. And, let me say that a lot of creators who built their influence on TikTok, they're, of course, very scared and frustrated. There's so much uncertainty. Like, do I switch to Instagram now? But it's not that easy to build it. It's a very complicated challenge, I would say. But yeah, definitely curious to see how this is going to be resolved. And also, I have a few really close friends who work for TikTok. Like, what's going to happen to all those US based jobs? So,
it'll be
yeah.
interesting to see how they implement and execute the TikTok ban that could or could not be. And you, in your position, how you strategize to overcome that eventually, not knowing what influences or threats may come. But again, it's good to focus on the opportunities to switch platform, build a community or network outside of that specific channel can always be a good idea. But I'm so excited for the future for you, your continued growth and success and everything that you do with influencer marketing. Appreciate you coming on the show and taking the time to share this with our audience. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.